We have a pair of presenters up next. First, Glen Fields, Vice President for PTC Go-to-Market and Strategy at ThingWorx, where he's a member of the leadership team responsible for the go-to-market strategy for the ThingWorx IoT platform. His initiatives include setting strategic direction, driving growth, and ensuring customer success of the platform. Prior to ThingWorx, Glen directed global product management, business development, long-range strategic planning, and profit and loss accountability for the aerospace and defense wireless connectivity business unit at MACOM. That is Glen, and presenting alongside him is Enrique Herrera, Market Principal, Connected Services at OSIsoft. Enrique shapes OSIsoft's strategy to address the Internet of Things. He brings over 25 years experience from Microsoft as an industry specialist from the automotive manufacturing perspective. He also serves on the board of the Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition. Please welcome Glen and Enrique. Give them your undivided attention, please.
Good afternoon. You guys are doing awesome, hanging in. It's been a long and eventful day, so hopefully everybody's enjoying themselves. I want to start off by introducing my company. I'm with PTC, and we make computer software. We hope that our software products can enable the ecosystem that we're all learning about today. If you look at PTC as a company, we have 30 years of heritage providing industrial enterprise software into many of your companies that are represented today, like with our Creo CAD software, our Windchill PLM software, our Integrity ALM software, and our Servergenics SLM software. But we have started to reinvent ourselves at PTC, and we've been really busy over the last 2.5 years buying companies to the tune of $700 million. And the 5 companies that represent that really make up our technology stack in our technology platform group. So during the course of this presentation, I'll talk about these acquisitions and how they fit in with the overall strategy of how we hope to evangelize and really help get the ecosystem of IoT and augmented reality mainstream.
And my company is OSIsoft, probably a company you may not be familiar with, but we're a 37-year-old software company here in the Bay Area. We focus on delivering enterprise infrastructure for time series data and sensor data. We're in over 127 different countries, 5,000 customers, and our PI system is in over 19,000 industrial sites.
So you might be asking, why did we spend $700 million? Well, it's all because of this really simple diagram about the Internet of Things. And I tried to really distill it down into the most basic definition of why we're interested in this. So, you know, if you look at the Internet of Things, you have a thing, and that thing needs to be sensorized, and you're going to be pulling data off of that thing. And you got to do something with that data, and it's got to be meaningful, and you got to pass that data up to the human so that they can make a meaningful decision back to the thing. And that's typically to monitor it and control it. It's a huge opportunity for us at PTC and for everybody in this room, and that's primarily why we're investing so heavily in this technology. At the very core of the strategy for PTC for Industrial Internet of Things is the ThingWorx platform. And what the ThingWorx platform does is it allows you the ability to build and deploy apps for smart controlled machines or things into the industrial Internet of Things. And that's kind of the core base, but how do we differentiate ourselves amongst the other 400 IoT platforms that are out there that you can choose from? And to fully understand that, you have to understand our acquisition strategy over the course of the last 2.5 years. So to start, I'd like to tell you about Kepware and why that's important to the industrial Internet of Things. So Kepware is an industrial connectivity company. For the past 20 years, they've been developing connectivity software for the automation industry. So in their library that they've developed over the past 20 years, they have over 150 device drivers that allows machines to communicate to one another. So machine to machine and machine up to DCS systems and SCADA systems and the like. So that allows us the ability to start sharing this information in the form of data. So if you look at the top 100 industrial companies that are out there in the world today, 92% of them use Kepware in their ecosystem.
So as OSIsoft, we take that sensor-based data, which is not always very easy to work with, and we provide additional context. So associating the sensor-based data with an asset, like in this case a fermenter or another piece of equipment, but also preparing that data for some type of analysis. So something like a startup marking the beginning of the event and the end of the event and saying this is a startup, or defining the time period for a batch, like in a beer process.
So we're solving one problem and we're getting data. But the problem is that there's going to be a lot of data, right? So if you look at the world's data that's out there today, over 80% of the world's data has been created over the last 2 years. And if you look at that over the next 3 years, approaching 2020, you're going to have something on the magnitude of 21 billion devices that are being connected that are all going to be streaming this data. And that data is too much for the human to interact with. So there's got to be a way to do something with that data. And that leads me to the next acquisition at PTC, which is a company called ColdLight. So not a 20-year-old history company, but rather a pretty innovative startup company that focuses on artificial intelligence and machine learning. So they had the IP to take these massively big data sets, perform big data analytics so that you can contextually interact with that data in a more meaningful way. We were very interested with that in the ThingWorx platform for the sake of being able to take that big data analytics and do such things as real-time edge analytics for like predictive maintenance in industrial facilities. We're working on enhanced algorithms specifically for IoT that we're building in for features into our platform. And we're also allowing APIs to bring in third-party algorithms for other companies that might do big data analytics that we want to complement our big data analytics with.
So at OSIsoft now, we take that operational data and we clean, shape, and transform it so that it can be used in advanced analytic tools, such as the ColdLight acquisition from PTC. But we also want to bring that data back into the operational environment. So once the insights are gleaned from the advanced analytic, we want to see those operational insights back in context for the operator.
So now we're getting somewhere. So now we're taking this massive data set and we're shrinking it down into something that's a little bit more manageable through this big data analytics. But there's still work that can be done. So that leads us to the next acquisition that we did, which is Vuforia. And Vuforia was spun out of Qualcomm, out of their R&D group, operated for about 4 years out of Qualcomm. And they're really leaders in computer vision technology and AR. So if you look at the world's AR ecosystem out there, over 80% of the people using augmented reality use the Vuforia SDK. So in our ecosystem, we have over 270,000 developers and over 300 million app installs using Vuforia. But PTC wanted to take it a step further. So we wanted to create a content creation tool because the SDK is very good at doing computer vision and telling where you are with respect to the target that you're looking at, but you got to put content into that environment, right? So in comes ThingWorx Studio. So over the last year, I've been working with the team to develop this content creation tool that's very specialized. So we wanted to have a very simple UI design that's a click and drag environment to be able to navigate through the Studio product offering. We wanted to be able to take pre-existing content that already exists and be able to pull it in. This is the secret to scalability of augmented reality in the industrial enterprise. So pretty much everything that's out there is first designed with a CAD software. So if you could take that CAD file, you know how it goes together and how it comes apart. So if you can import that into a software platform like Studio, then you can reuse that content. Same goes with back-end system data. So if you have ERP data, PLM data, SLM data, CMMS information, preventive maintenance instructions, whatever that's already created that you want to reuse and take that content and put it onto a wearable system, we give you the mechanism to do that. We wanted to be able to create AR animations very easily, so we have a tool that does that. Since it's a parametric tool on how CAD files come together, we know the sequencing of that, so we can automatically do animations to represent how things would come apart or come back together. And then last but not least, we wanted to be able to integrate in IoT data, because we feel that this is super powerful. If you can overlay how machines are working, then we can redefine the HMI systems that people are usually accustomed to working with. In fact, we can reinvent them. And we can reinvent them on a daily basis. So we can change the UI literally daily, so you don't have to worry about the capital expense of investing in a hugely, analog type machine, where we can just digitally recreate that human-machine interface. So, a lot of data, crunch it down with big data analytics, and now we use the power of augmented reality to contextually and visually absorb that data. So I always joke that our minds are more visual processors than word processors, right? So you can visually absorb information at a far faster rate than you can by reading, right? So that's the power of augmented reality in the industrial enterprise, is to be able to contextually experience this data. So real quick, we're gonna give you a demo, but what I wanted to do was explain to you what you're seeing before the demo. So our architecture is this. You create your content in Studio, and this could be 3D CAD content, or it could be setting up IoT sensor data, which is the demo that we're gonna show you today. You publish that content either up to the cloud, or we offer an on-premise solution too. So if you have security concerns, you can have on-prem, cloud, or a hybrid of both. And then we have this thing right here, which is called a thing mark. And I like to call this the next generation QR code, because this is what's gonna launch your experience. But what's different about this is that in traditional AR experiences, you might only launch one AR experience. With this device, you could literally store up to 1,000 different experiences. They could be YouTube videos, they could be AR experiences, they could be sensor data, you name it. It's all serialized to a specific domain ID for that piece of equipment, and then it's hosted on a specific instance ID. And it's always configurable, so you can keep adding information to it, modifying it, and republishing it. So when you look at that device with a camera system like on the HMT device, it's gonna launch your AR experience and be able to show you the power of augmented reality and IoT experience information. So if you look at the go-to-market strategy that we built at ThingWorx for PTC, you can summarize it right here. We feel that there's an intersection and a convergence between IoT and augmented reality. ThingWorx sits right in between that. So if you think about the Internet of Things as the ability to digitally talk to physical things to monitor and control it, then augmented reality is the ability to see and experience those digital attributes.
So let's take a look at how these technologies come to deliver the demonstration scenario here for the brewery. We've got a fermenter instrumented with temperature data that's brought into our partner National Instruments Compact Rio platform, which then brings the data up into our OSIsoft Pi system, where we've also brought in the interwear data from the previous demonstration for specific gravity, and we pass it onto the ThingWorx platform to create the augmented reality experience. So Luke, can you take us to the demo, please?
Hello, guys.
Hey, Luke.
Hey, Luke.
So what you're seeing there, that's a thing mark. So when he registers on the thing mark, it's going to pull up a menu. In this case, there's a couple different options, but that could be hundreds or thousands. And that's going to pull down the sensor information that's stored in the instance.
Navigate back. Navigate back. View. Select item 13.
I think he pulled down the wrong experience.
Open bookmarks. Open bookmarks. Fermentor. 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 Show help. Open gallery. Open gallery. Show bookmarks. Show bookmarks. Show bookmarks. For mentor.
It's fermenter. British.
Gravity graph.
But you don't do that for the British language, huh? It's a foreign language.
All
There
right,
you go.
so what do you see in here? So that went out, registered to the instance, pulled down the live streaming data. Okay, so what we did here is we are pulling pressure data from the sensors, we're pulling specific gravity, and we're pulling temperature. So this is the UI that I'm talking about that's customizable. So within Studio, we allow to extend through JavaScript or CSS editing, so you can make this look however you want it to look, okay? In this particular case, we just picked standard dials that come standard in our Studio product.
Show gravity.
But now let's say we want to pull up a trend of the
Show
specific gravity over time.
Gravity graph.
Lighting's a little light here, but you can see here now this is a trend of the actual specific gravity over time, so it's live data feed. So you can imagine in an industrial facility, if you have condition monitoring on a piece of equipment, you could pull up a trend. If you see a high vibration alarm on a machine, you could pull up a trend to see if something abnormal is happening, and then you could even dive down further to pull up specific spectrum plots of a specific measurement point on that pump. So in this particular case, we have several different temperatures. So you could maybe pull up a graph of the temperature graph if you haven't already. That's pressure. So it just gives you more insight on what's happening with your machine. So that's the power of pulling in IoT and augmented reality.
Show help.
Go ahead.
So we've seen that now kind of in a brewery example, but what we want to talk about is how that applies across all these industrial environments.
Pressure graph.
So at OSIsoft, we're primarily in 6 core industries and a lot of emerging industries. So we're in over 1,000 power utilities companies throughout the We're in 95% of the top 40 oil and gas companies. We're also in pulp and paper, metals and mining, pharmaceuticals, and the petrochemical examples. So across these industries, we'll see how these use cases apply.
Hello, Glen.
So what we did was we commissioned a survey to some of our customers in the industrial equipment space, the green technology, and in oil and gas. And what came back was kind of the statistic that was echoed earlier about the millennials and folks retiring. We heard that 76% of the people we interviewed noticed that they're going to lose expertise over the next 5 years. And it's specifically around industrial operations, maintenance, all of those capabilities that's necessary. But the other key part about the survey was that when we asked them what they were doing to mitigate some of that concern, 75% of them talked about hiring new employees, and 57% of them talking about delivering new training to some of their staff. So this is where the remote mentor, the work instructions, the visualization of the data is coming back in and lining up with the industry trends. So this is an example of one of our customers, because a lot of these customers bring this industrial data into these big industrial command and control centers, where they're bringing in millions of streams of data, and they're visualizing the data in these command and control centers, but they're also interacting with people in the field that are going out and servicing and maintaining and dealing with situational awareness in some of these environments. See my virtual clicker?
I got the clicker. So I mentioned earlier that there's 400 other companies and counting that are creating IoT platforms. So I wanted to give just a little snapshot to show how we're doing as a company specific to the IoT platforms. Still early in the race, but you can see here, IoT Analytics voted us #1 for market share in IoT platforms. Independent studies here between Expertin and Forrester put us right up here, kind of in the leaders in the strong area, and same thing on the Expertin report. And this is really, really important to our company. This is a stock graph over the last year. So PTC is riding on a 17-year high for our stock, which for a 30-year-old software company to reinvent yourself, we're pretty proud about that. And it's all because of this movement and this transformational movement with the IoT. And everybody in this room has an opportunity to participate in it, and it's going to be a really, really cool ride over the next 3 years. If you like what you saw with augmented reality and IoT, we launched a thing called the ThingWorx pilot program around 4 months ago. Currently, right now, we have over 1,000 companies that are participating in this pilot program, over 20,000 downloads of our View app that launches the experiences, and over 100,000 experiences have been consumed in this pilot program. What you get with it is a 4-month free trial where we give you an IoT ThingWorx instance and a ThingWorx Studio augmented reality instance, and you can create, do your pilots, do your pilot studies, show the justification to your company that this technology makes sense, use it with your RealWear HMT device, and go play with it. And if you like it after 4 months, come back to us, and we can get you up and going on a production instance of the software platform.
So these solutions don't come together by themselves. They're delivered with partner ecosystems. So that's why ourselves, OSIsoft, PTC, National Instruments have joined the Pioneer program with RealWear. And not only are we a part of the Pioneer program, we support each other at our mutual events. So a few that are coming up, March 20th is our users conference. So if you like being in a room with 2,000 engineers that like to play with data, we'll welcome you here in San Francisco, and you can speak to Todd about participating. But also the LiveWorks event in Boston that's coming up in May, and the National Instruments event that's down in Texas. So we'd love to see you at the event, but also definitely come and speak to us at the back table. There's 3 of us back there to go have that discussion. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you.